Hi guys, welcome to my video. I filmed a tutorial on how to make a trench coat last winter, but for some reason I couldn't post it on my YouTube channel until today, when the weather was getting warmer. However, I decided to post it anyway. A detailed guide for those who want to learn, so I hope when you guys watch this video you can easily sewing on your own. So let's get started! So these are the patterns I made from my basic sewing pattern. If you want to see how I draft the pattern, you can click on the link on the description below. So I used China wool fabric and a non-stretch fabric to make my trench coat. I love using this because it makes the trench coat look sturdy and it can retain heat really well. First, you need to fold the fabric in half with the wrong side out and place the button pieces on. Add the seam allowance about 4 cm for the hem and 1.2 cm on the edges, and then cut out. The front pattern was cut 4/2 for the main fabric and 2 for the facing, and the remaining pattern pieces were cut 2 pieces. Now we're gonna working with the back body. So the first is to sew the center back. In the curved part, I will have to use a scissor to close the seam. Next is the lining for the back 2 panels. So then sew the center back line on the wrong side of the fabric. In the curved part, use the scissors to press the seam close, then close the seam and iron it. Next is lining for the side 1 and side 2. Each pieces is 2 lining fabrics. Then you need to matching the right sides together with the back and the side 2. Then you pin and sew it. So I would like to use a scissor to press close to the seam, then turn off and iron. Repeat for the lining. Next, sew facing for the back lining. Working with the front, right sides together, then start sewing from point A about 10 cm from the bottom edges. Then clip on a lapel fold, corner of collar lapel and point A. Then you need to identify the facing of the front body. Since the panels are the same size, so you can choose any pieces. Then cut off 3 cm from the bottom line. The cut sheet is facing and do the same with other linings. So from the lapel fold down to the hem of the trench coat, I will fold the seam toward the facing fabric and sew a straight seam about 0.5 cm from the original seam. Similarly, from the lapel fold up to the neckline, I would fold the seam toward the main fabric and sew a straight seam about 0.5 cm from the original seam. And then I iron it. Next, fold the collar lapel over the chalk line. If you watch the sewing pattern drafting video, this is the line D, and using an iron, after sewing and ironing, there will be a phenomenon that the fabrics do not overlap. So I will use the scissor to cut away the excess fabric. Next is to sew the front body and side 1 together. For a nice seam, I will use the scissors to press into 0.7 cm curve on the front panel. Then you need to match the right sides together with the side 1 and the front together and then sewing it. And you need to repeat for the other side and lining. And then iron it. and top stitching. Then we need to matching the right sides together with the back and then the front, then sew them the shoulder seam. Do the same things with the lining. Then I cut off the excess color fabric on the back body. Next, I will sew the side seam both on the main fabric and the lining fabric. So you need to press the seams to open and then iron it. Now we will move to the armhole. First, I will take a tape measure to measure the armhole. Mine is 47 cm. Then I place the bodies on the paper. Then determine the height of the sleeve cap. From the top point of the side seam, take up 3.5 cm and then draw 2 parallel lines. Then draw a line perpendicular to the second line is. Next, apply the formula that the armhole measurement plus 2 cm and it would be 49 cm. Then I will take 45 cm divided by 2, so it will be equal to 24.5 cm. Then I will minus 1 cm, so we will get 23.5 cm. Then I'm going to draw the armhole curve on the outermost point of the sleeve cap. And finish off the sleeve cap. Divided the bottom line of the sleeve into 4 equal segments. At the 2 points I just identified, take out the 2 sides, about 1.5 cm. Then connect to the sleeve cap and cut off the sleeve along those 2 lines. Then you can use a tape to graft in seam. Matching the upper sleeve and under sleeve together. At the front of the sleeve, I'm going to take about 2 cm and then draw a curve. And cutting along the line. Still in the back, I will add 1.2 cm more in the middle and then smaller on the sides. So this point will be sewn in with the side seam of the trench coat. Then we need to cut off 0.7 cm at the bottom of the sleeve. Add seam allowance about 4 cm for the hem sleeve and 1.2 cm at all the edges, and then cut the sleeve pattern pieces on the fabric. Pin and sew at the bottom and you need to repeat for other pieces. Then mark the fold line on the sleeve and ironing and cutting. Next, sew the upper sleeve and under sleeve together. First, you need to sew the longest line of the sleeve, which will be on the back. The raw edges are then turned toward the upper sleeve and a sew straight line 5 mm from the seam. And sew the other side of the sleeve. Then you need to press the seams to open, and it is excellent if you have a seams roll and a tailor's clapper. It is a rectangular block of wood that you may lay on top of a seam after pressing together clips and flat the seam. And then you need to turn the sleeve right side out. Use the gather stitch at the sleeve cap, then gently collect so that the sleeve cap fits the armhole. Pin and sew it by hand. Once you are satisfied with the position of the sleeves, then sew them in place with the sewing machine. Do the same with the lining sleeve and other sleeves. This is a form shoulder part. You can keep the original side, but I think cut them to fit your shoulder, it is better. And sew by hand at the armhole and shoulder line. Turn right side out and check. Of course, the shoulder has been sewn with form shoulder part. It would be much more stretchy and smoother than the other shoulder. Next is drafting the collar pattern and sewing the coach collar. You need to flatten the neck first. Then I will insert one sheet of paper underneath and draw lines on the paper. So watch closely to see how I do with drafting the pattern for the collar. This is what the collar will look like after sewing. Next, I will measure the back half of the collar, and my measurement is 9 cm, and draw a pattern for the collar. Then place the sewing pattern on the fabric. Add a seam allowance and cut out. Then you need to sew the collar along the dashed line as I showed on the screen. Trim the corners and the edges of the collar. Mark the corners of the collar, then turn the right side out and then iron it. Next, pin the collar to the neckline. Then use the scissors to cut into the corners and press 1 cm deep. At first, I will sew with a hand needle, then I will sew with a sewing machine. Then cut close to the seam, taking care not to cut through the seam. Right face and iron. I would use 1 pieces of fabric, roll them up to fit my hand, then I will use that in place of a tailor's hem and ironing. Next is to sew the hem. I will open the seam and turn it all over to the right side. Then use a hand needle to close the opened section. Next step, I will use a mannequin to pin the main fabric and the lining together. You need to make sure that the layers are not stretched. Then iron the hem. Finally, I will sew the buttons and make the holes for the jacket. And that's done. This is a really difficult tutorial for me because the details are numerous and verbal explanations are not my forte. However, I've tried my best to convey the content in the simplest way as possible, and I hope that you will understand what I've shown in the video. And see you in the next video. Bye!